For me and my experience in Haiti for the past 10 plus years has been a very resilient people that just want to live, that want to get to know you, that are kind. Haiti makes me even question, what is poverty, right? What does poor look like, right? Because for me, when I look at people actually being able to spend time with each other, to me, that's important, right? So even this notion of they're not driving fancy cars, they're not in big houses, but when it comes to living, right? When it comes to just that joy that people have of that sense of community, I think it's unmatched.
In this powerful episode, Sam Darguin, Executive Director and founder of the Haitian American Caucus, shares his incredible journey of service and resilience. What began as a short trip to Haiti after the devastating 2010 earthquake turned into more than a decade of building schools, healthcare initiatives, and entrepreneurship programs that empower local communities. Sam reflects on the strength and solidarity of the Haitian people, especially the women leading through HAC's micro-entrepreneurship efforts, and how their determination fuels his own. Now expanding into the Dominican Republic, Sam continues working to bridge cultural divides and uplift Haitian communities across borders. His vision for the future is clear: to look back in 20 years and see lasting hope, opportunity, and transformation for Haiti and its people. My name is Buddy Teaster, President and CEO of Souls for Souls, and you're listening to the Repurpose Podcast, featuring candid conversations with business leaders who share the ups and downs, wins and challenges they faced along the way, and how they learned to overcome them. These are real stories of going from tailspin to tailwind. All right, Sam, welcome to this episode of Repurpose. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, buddy. Pleasure to be here.
Well, you and I go back a long way now. It's more than a decade, which is kind of a shocking thing to say. And there's a lot of great things to talk about. But for people who don't know your story, maybe just a few minutes about what got you to Haiti, what your life was like before, and what you're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Samuel Darguin. I'm the executive director and founder of the Haitian American Caucus. Really, it's a nonprofit that started in the U.S., primarily in Brooklyn, helping Haitians in New York, in the diaspora, kind of just really understand and provide resources for them in the U.S. January 12, 2010, of course, 7.2 earthquake hits Haiti. At that time, I'm working in Lower Manhattan for the Department of Commerce, meeting some friends up on 42nd Street. And as I'm getting out of the train station in New York, my phone is just blowing up, and I'm trying to make sense of all these text messages. And then I look up on the screen on 42nd Street, and here it is on the news. Haiti has just been struck by this earthquake. The funny thing about it is my entire family was in Haiti at the time because we had a family member that got married the weekend before. The only reason why I was in Haiti for that wedding is because I had just started this new job and I was still on probation because I would have been there, right? So when that happened, I immediately, the first thing I thought about was, well, is my family okay?
Sure.
And then the second thing was, well, what can I do to help, right? And then subsequently, I ended up, that night, I sent an email out just to some folks that I knew were just doing work in Haiti, because I knew that the airport in Port-au-Prince was destroyed, and I knew that things were going to be coming in through the Dominican Republic. And I said, hey, my dad has a very small space that he runs, a very small school. I mean, no running water, outhouse type of bathroom. But I said, if anybody needs a place to kind of like come through and just kind of figure out what they're doing in Haiti, let me know. And the next day when I woke up, I had hundreds of emails just in my inbox from Red Cross teams to search and rescue teams saying, hey, yes, if you have any space in Haiti that we can use, we would love to. So that's kind of how my Haiti journey started. About 2 weeks after the earthquake, I flew in through the Dominican Republic. Took me about a day and a half to get over the border into Haiti, just because I wanted to go see firsthand, and I also wanted to see what I can do to actually help. And that's kind of how my Haiti journey started. I will be honest to say that I said, hey, I'm going to go to Haiti for, a week or two, right? See what I could do to like help out, and then come back to New York and, get back to work. But the story does not end there at all. Ended up staying for over 10 years in Haiti, really building not just really a school, but a a community development organization where we're looking at the holistic picture of education, healthcare, entrepreneurship, right? And what does this Haiti that we would love to see, what does that look like, right? With, Haitians really at the forefront of that development and of that change. So that's really how my Haiti story got started.
Yeah.
There's so much more that we can say about that.
We're going to dive into more,
Okay.
I promise. But, look, the book that sort of led to this podcast that I wrote and just came out recently is From Tailspin to Tailwind. And of the places that I know, and not as well as you know them, Haiti has had, seems like, more tailspin than tailwind. Going back a long way now, right?
Oh, yeah.
More than 200 years.
Oh, yeah.
So I think there is the version of Haiti that we see on the news, which is always terrible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Earthquake on. But there's also my experience and what kept you there for more than 10 years, and I know you're still working there now. We'll come to that.
Yep.
There's something amazing about the people who just never give up.
Yeah.
So can you talk about those two things of like, there is this very real level of chaos and conflict and danger, and there's this other part where people are, I've never seen work so hard to take care of their families and to provide. So can you talk about those two things?
Yeah. The one thing that I will say is that the Haiti that the media portrays, while those things are a part of it, it's so much more. And there's so much life, energy, color, hardworking folks, people that believe in family, right? When working in Haiti, oftentimes it feels like, I always say it almost feels like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, right? 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And there's many reasons for that, I think. But when I look at the Haitian people and I look at really and truly what they want what we all want, right? They want to be able to live in a safe, secure environment. They want to be able to send their kids to school. They want to be able to support their family in a very real way. I think Haiti's history, whether it's outside influences tied in with, Haitian accomplices that have led to so many things going wrong in Haiti. But I think when you look at the Haitian people, and despite everything that's going on, right? Because, that is the headline, right? Haiti, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, living on under $1 a day. That's the headline. But for me and my, experience in Haiti for the past, 10 plus years has been a very resilient people, people that just want to live, that want to get to know you, that are kind. And then Haiti makes me even question, what is poverty, right? What does poor look like, right? Because for me, when I look at people actually being able to spend time with each other, people, you can go into anyone's house and they'll for sure, there'll be coffee waiting for you, right? To me, that's like, that's important, right? So even this notion of they're not driving fancy cars, they're not in big houses, but when it comes to living, right? When it comes to just that joy that people have of just, that sense of community, I think it's unmatched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sam, when we started working together in 2013, and we've done a lot since then, this idea of especially Haitian women who you were already working with, and their ability to dig in and do whatever it takes to provide. But often, again, from the outside, they don't have any skills, they may not be literate, and yet 10 years later, there are all these success stories for many of these women and their families. So can you talk a little bit about this disconnect from the outside of like, these people don't have any skills and they don't know what they're doing. And then you get there and you find out how clever and hardworking they are. Yeah. And if they just have the right tools and some opportunities. So how did you find your way into that, right? You didn't start there with the school, but how did that grow? Yeah,
it started with just, people, parents of students saying, hey, I want to start a business. Can I borrow $50, right? And then at first, I'll admit I came to Haiti I was a bit naive, right?
Which is a hard thing for a New Yorker to say.
Right? I was a bit naive. So, giving out $50 here and there, but then I'm like, hey, listen, I don't have that much $50 to give out, right? So then it was, well, how do I knew everybody wanted to do something. Everybody wanted to get a small business started so that they're not having to come back to people or depend on family from the States to send them, $50 here, $100 there. And I said, well, let's really formalize this, right? So I met with a group of ladies that I had provided funds to, and I said, hey, besides me, I don't only just want to be this guy you can come to borrow $50, right? Maybe you start a business, maybe you don't. But what do you really need in order to be successful? And, some of the main things were, well, we need education, right? Mm-hmm. One of the main things is that, hey, we can't go to a bank because besides the fact that we can't read French, we can't read at all, right?
Right.
We can't do basic, math, right? We don't know how to do these things, but we want to do business. But a lot of times, because we don't have these skill sets, a lot of times we start, but then something happens and we have to, then we have to stop or we sell everything off, and then that cycle continues. So I said, well, let's really formalize this and let's see what we can actually do to make this work. So reach out to some friends that were in kind of like the business realm, and I said, hey, what can we do here? And of course, there are a lot of great examples of micro entrepreneurship models that we were able to use, and we were really able to get a system in place where not only were we able to educate these women, we were able to provide them with business training on how to start, maintain, and grow their small business. And then we also just realized that in people's nature, right, at least in Haiti, everybody is like an entrepreneur.
Everybody's a hustler.
Everybody's a hustler. Everybody is selling something, right?
Yeah.
But once you're able to kind of fine tune those skills and you're able to really establish the, best practices, it makes things a whole lot better. So we have examples of women that started out with us in our micro program where literally within 2 to 3 years, these were folks that were in abject poverty, right? Mm-hmm. The poorest of the poor. But within 2 to 3 years, you start seeing them, purchase a land, right? Well, first and foremost, you just start seeing physically how they start to change. I think for me, that was the first thing that caught my eye, right? Is that just physically, folks just started to look healthier, right? Their kids started to look healthier and just better kept, right? And then that translated then to them, being able to purchase land and actually building their own homes. And, it was a regular theme for someone to say, hey, I did not know where my next meal was coming from, but now, my kids are eating 3 times a day. Right. Wow. So just those stories, I'm like, okay, well, there's hope here. Right. And if folks have that business training that they need, a lot can be done. And I can tell countless stories of women in Haiti till today who are in our program that continue just to thrive. Right. And, that was in 2011, 2012. In, 2025, when Haiti is even in a much more difficult state, I am shocked to see that how committed these women are to getting product, right? Going through gang territory, putting shoes on a boat, risking that just to make sure that they can stay alive and take care of their loved ones.
Yeah. Sam, one of the things that struck me, and I want to come back to what you're doing now and how you've navigated the sort of the more chaos that's going on in Haiti. Again, I think this is, part of my naivete and expectation is like when people have their backs against the wall, often it's like, I've gotten mine, I'm going to keep mine. And one of the things early on that blew me away about the women that you were working with was it was the opposite. They would invite other women in. Mm-hmm. So instead of like, hey, I have something that works, don't mess it up. They are like, no, come and be a part of this, or I can help you find your own thing. You talked about poverty, and there's lots of ways to think about it. And the one that you see in Haiti is this community that means you're not really poor in all the ways that you might think matter. So what is that like when you've got all this chaos, and there are times when you don't have enough to eat and the electricity doesn't work, and those things are every day, and yet there's still this incredible willingness to include people in your success instead of compete with them.
Yeah, again, Haiti has challenged the way I typically view a lot of things, right? And that's another great example, right? This, we tend to think that, well, amongst poor people, they want to hold on to whatever they have. They don't want to let someone else in because of fear of they'll take over or they won't have enough. And I will challenge that and say that is the many times I feel like folks that are oftentimes voiceless, it's other people that oftentimes dictate who they think they are, right? And who they perceive them to be, right? When you think poor, when you think Haiti, when you think whatever, there's certain things that come to mind, whether we want to admit it or not, right? And we all know what those things are. But my experience has been completely different. Even in our lending program, we lend in groups, right? And it's amazing when you see the solidarity amongst a group of 5 women who are in this lending circle, and maybe someone has a death in the family. Maybe something has happened where a particular entrepreneur cannot pay on time, and their cohort picks that right up. Right? They support that person because they understand that, hey, your struggle is my struggle, right? Today I have a death today it's you have some money that has passed, tomorrow will be me. Today your town was hit by a hurricane, the next day it will be me. And currently today, sadly, but still showing that solidarity today is, hey, your town has just been taken over by the gangs, right? And you've had to run in the middle of the night with just the clothes on your back. Hey, we're going to support you through that. We're going to help you get back on your feet, whatever that looks like. So no matter, throughout my entire work that I continue to do in Haiti, and no matter how the climate in Haiti changes, one thing that remains consistent is the solidarity and the unity amongst the women that we serve. And I'm always blown away to see how me personally, and I've said this, I said, I don't know that I would be able to function in the way Haiti is right now. Haiti has always been kind of like chaotic, right? But when you're talking about, literally within overnight, whatever you've built, right? Whatever you worked hard, whether it's your home, whether it's whatever that is, being taken away from you instantly, right? Where you're literally sleeping, going from, living in your home and things are relatively okay to now sleeping on the street, right? Not knowing where you're going. Yeah. So, but nonetheless, right? That solidarity is still there.
So I want to come back and talk about the school because I think that is an example of how all this comes together to benefit the next generation.
Correct.
But the question that I don't think you and I have ever talked about, you focus a lot on the women. We do too. We've loved that part of our work together. Where are the men? I mean, here you're a strong Haitian American leader.
Yeah.
I know people on your team who are men, but where are men in all the? Are they all in the gangs? Like,
no.
There is some weird, like they're almost invisible when we talk about all the great things in Haiti.
Yeah. The men are there, and there are great men that are doing great things. I think for me, I focus on the women, and I'm unapologetic about that piece because in my experience working with women in Haiti, the Dominican Republic as well, has just had the benefit to the entire family is so clear, right? It's so clear. It's so evident, and you see it day to day. The men are there. A lot of them are playing their part, but in my experience, I feel like whenever we are working with our women entrepreneurs, so much more comes from that. And there's full transparency. There's definitely an element of pride, right? There's definitely an element of
like the macho thing?
Like the macho thing,
okay.
Right? Maybe I don't want to sit through this class to get a micro loan. I don't want to do, and I get that, right? Because I think it's tough in a place like Haiti where you are, where the gender roles sometimes are very well defined,
Yeah.
and you're not in the position to maybe meet that particular gender role. But I think we've also been doing a lot of work at inviting some of the men just to kind of see, what their wives are doing, right? And I think slowly but surely, I think they're picking up, and I think and even if they're not picking up, they absolutely understand that it's better to have your spouse working and also bringing in revenue,
Yeah.
so that when things get tough, there's another pot that you can actually,
pull from.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
that makes sense. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. I just,
But the men are there. I think they're not all in gangs. I think it's a pride thing. It's a macho thing. But I think it's and I get that from a cultural perspective, especially in a country like Haiti. But the men are definitely there.
okay. All right. Good. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the school, because when we first met, that was the focus of your work.
Correct.
And I think our partnership, the business part of what we do and the mission part of what we do, I also saw how that helped you transform the school faster than you would have been otherwise. And to know where you wound up with kids graduating from high school and going to university, I mean, how can you just not think, well, that's my life's work?
Yeah.
And then it's gone, right? It's been reshaped. Someplace, right?
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about it? Because I think it is an incredible story of how amazing, beautiful, and hard things still get done in a place where you think there's no chance for that.
Yeah. I think that story, buddy, was a very big part of just my story in Haiti. Focusing on the school. I mean, when you came down in 2013, it was just nothing, probably.
Nothing. It was not much.
It was not much. But being able to develop that, right, to have 3 large buildings properly built with power, with proper everything, right, was a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And it's a big deal, especially for the children we were serving, right? 60% of our student body are Restavex, and that's a system in Haiti where pretty much parents would send a child to go live with either a family member or a friend, and essentially the child becomes the indentured servant, and I'm using that word lightly, a slave.
You tiptoed right up to that,
right up to here, of that host family. So really, and of course, right, a young kid and with a host family that in an already poor country, you can only imagine the horrors that these kids have been through. And I think for me, it's a testament that we had such an amazing operation with really some of the most just at-risk youth in Haiti. So from 2010 when I got there till 2019, 2020, we started with 50 kids, right? And then we grew that to over 600 kids, getting a hot meal every single day, literally, top of every national exam, any kind of competition we went to, spelling, robotics, you name it.
Can you just stop for a second? Robotics?
Robotics.
Like, really?
Robotics, yep. And those things exist in Haiti, but a school serving our demographic would not even be a part of a situation like that. So just to have, when they are asking, well, where's the school? Who are these kids? And it's not the typical big name schools that you would typically hear of in Haiti. And they're like, oh, HAC. Okay, Haitian American Caucus. Where is that again? Right? But just to show you how much our kids were able to shine, right, in a place like Haiti with very, very limited means, right? So from 2010 to 2020, growing, amazing school from kindergarten to high school. Our first graduating class was in 2019. Those kids started going to university. Kind of, the mission, right, was really coming into fruition, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, the gang situation started in Croix-des-Bouquets, exactly where our school was, made headline news.
Yeah.
Missionaries were kidnapped. And we were still able to operate. Even though the gang that was in control of the area was for lack of a better term, they were a friend of the school, right? They were like, okay, you guys can still operate, because they understood the importance of still keeping some form of normalcy. With that being said, things were not normal, right? My staff members in Haiti, they would say, they would joke about it, but it was not funny. They would say, hey, we're used to, when we sweep the schoolyard in the morning, we're used to, picking up the leaves and just regular debris. They're like, hey, now when we're sweeping in the morning, we're picking up gun shells, right? So that was the situation. Literally, our kids and our teachers having to walk through armed men, armed boys. These are boys, right?
Yeah.
Armed boys with semi-automatic weapons, right? Just to get to school. So we held off until December 2023, where literally as we were closing up final exams, thank God for our parents. A parent came, just in distress to the school and said, another gang is like on the next town over and they're coming our way. So you could imagine, right? December.
No, I cannot imagine.
Right.
No.
So just imagine, if you could, December, exams are going on. We're trying to, give our kids some kind of, peaceful, toys and, kind of that whole Christmas spirit, and having to immediately do a rapid dismissal of our entire school. And within 2 hours of us doing that rapid dismissal, the school was taken by the gangs.
Wow.
The school was taken within 2 hours. So thank God for that parent, because it would have been, I could only imagine what could have happened if I had 600 plus kids at a school with this new gang taking over. But thank God we were able to get everyone out. And then what ensued was pretty much from December to January was the gangs coming in with big box trucks and taking everything that was in the school. Laptops. You imagine anything that was, on site was taken away. Our school buses, taking out the motors. We had anything that was physically in the school of value was taken. When that happened, I think that was when I kind of that was my Haiti low. That was my, all right.
Yeah.
Like, what can I do at this point? It was kind of, hey, it's been a good, 10 years run. That's it, right? Because that's how the hurt, the disrespect, the privacy invasion that you feel when something like that happens is unexplainable. I was at the point where I was like, you know what? I'm done. I really said I was done. But I'm so grateful for my staff that said, no. They said, well, what are we going to do with all these kids, right? They said HAC's vision is much bigger than these gangs, right? They said what we've done with these kids, over the past 10 years was just bigger.
So, look, I'm going to ask you a question while you kind of
get it back.
Look, I mean,
it's never
unimaginable,
easy
the loss
to
of that, right? And for the kids and for you and your team. And talk about your team a little bit as a leader. I mean, you're a driver, like you were making stuff happen. Yeah. You weren't in the classroom. You weren't a teacher, but you were leading.
Correct.
You were running the business part of this, which was a huge part of your operation.
Correct.
Having a big impact in many ways so that these women could afford to send their kids to school. Like, it was very connected.
Yep.
But you just said something that's incredibly beautiful, and that is your team didn't want to give up. You were like, I'm out.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that say, no, Sam, this is bigger than that. So you were doing something along the way for them to feel that.
Correct.
So the best and brightest are the ones who leave first, right? So my guess is a lot of the people who are working at HAC could have left the country and done something else.
Correct.
But they didn't.
They didn't.
So how do you instill and foster that?
Yeah. A lot of it, I always talked about, a Haiti where Haitians on the ground are empowered, right? And I didn't know the impact. Even, sure, I knew that I was a leader. I knew that I, trained my staff, and I knew that I pushed them to, really lead and take control of things. I was just kind of there as the visionary person, but I knew that the day-to-day classroom stuff, pedagogy, I knew that they really had the skills that was needed to really move that forward. But I think what was remarkable for me, speaking about that leadership, was when even myself as a leader was like, well, like, pause, right? They were the ones that literally said, hey, let's talk about this. They said, and they literally gave me the plan. They said, we're not giving up. They said, well, we know where the kids are. The ones who had left the city, we knew pretty much where they had gone to, right? Because their parents were in contact with the school. So a great example of that, right? So December 2023, school is destroyed. By the end of January 2024, we had already placed over 250 kids in new schools throughout Haiti.
Amazing.
So just imagine that, right? Being able to, at this point, I'm not in Haiti, right? So my staff being able to figure out where these kids were, figuring out what schools in the new towns that they were in that were, comparable to HAC, and making those connections, going to those schools, figuring out how do we make payments, figuring out new uniforms, figuring out new books for these kids, right? Wow. So literally by the end of January, 250 kids had already been re-enrolled in other schools. By March, over 78% of our student body had already gone to other schools, right? And I'm like, that's amazing, right? The other 22%, which is just parents were just fearful and say, hey, I'm going to sit this one out. The things are just too crazy right now in Haiti, and they just didn't send their kids to school. And then the other percentages were the ones that just could not leave Croix-des-Bouquets. So our school was the only option that they had. So just to see how quickly my staff was able to reposition the kids and get them into new schools so that they don't lose the academic year was amazing. And then they went even further and said, hey, this situation is really in Port-au-Prince. We knew that we've done a lot of work in the city of Lekai in the southern region, but not as much as we had in Croix-des-Bouquets. And they said, hey, why don't we start something in Lekai? And I'm like, what? No, all right? But they literally sat me down, right? As a leader, right? I think it's beautiful when the folks that you
were being led.
I was being led. Yeah, I was being led in a very real way. They said, hey, listen, the majority of our kids are in the South, right? Let's start something here. So literally September 2024, we start a totally new school in the southern region, right? September 2024, we opened up the school with about 150 students, right? About 70% of those students were students that were at our school in Port-au-Prince, right? And then this September, this past year, we just opened up with 400 kids.
Incredible.
I mean, the chain of events is just crazy and inspiring at the very same time. So now we're in the southern region of Lekai, 400 kids. There are parents that are, the more parents are understanding that we have a new school now, they're like, hey, we're here this year. Once this academic year is done, we're moving to Lekai. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, we mean that much to you.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, we mean that much to you guys, where you guys will actually move, right, from wherever you guys are in Haiti to come to a different city just for that HAC community, right? So it's a beautiful thing. And I'm like, and I think that is what really kind of birthed this like saying that I use now where I say giving up on Haiti is simply not an option, right? I'm like, if we can go from Croix-des-Bouquets, to the gangs, to school being destroyed, and within a year being able to start a completely new school and continue with all of our services, right? Yeah. Continuing with our micro entrepreneurship, right? Doing all those things that we were already doing in Port-au-Prince, giving up, just not an option.
All right, so we can't end without talking about how you have, I hate the word pivot, but
Oh yeah,
you had to the Dominican Republic, and kind of what you're doing there and what you're up against and what's working.
the Dominican Republic was, I knew, of course, the DR shares an island with Haiti. I think for me, having had to spend a lot more time there when things were kind of, going downhill in Haiti, just to kind of be closer to my staff and kind of manage certain things, I started seeing that there was a real need in the Dominican Republic for everyone, Dominicans, but especially for the Haitians, right?
Yeah.
And just the conditions there. It's been a challenge. It's been a real challenge, but a challenge that I continue to fight for with love. And it's tough to be in a space, a country where you can clearly see the abuse and the racism, the colorism that's going on, and still having the heart and still having the wits to still be of service to everyone. And I think for me, there's over 2 million Haitians in the Dominican Republic.
That's like 20% of the country?
20% of the country. Of course, I like to speak truth to power on both sides, right? There's a huge migration of Haitians in the Dominican Republic right now because of the situation in Haiti. But nonetheless, the abuse that I see on a daily basis, it gets me mad. It gets me. I'm mad at the Dominican side. I'm mad at the Haitian side, right? Because I'm like, this is not right. And I've never even shared this before because it's still like, whoa. I've witnessed that, right, firsthand. I think I told you about my experience when we went to the
free trade
border,
zone?
to the free trade zone, and what that experience was like as a 20-year-old college student walking through that city and being whipped, right, in the Dominican Republic, to now 15 years later still doing work there and still experiencing some of the very same things I experienced 15 years ago. But nonetheless, I think what keeps me going is understanding that there's a real need. What keeps me going is understanding that no matter where my people are, I'm going to try to be of assistance. And there's something else that I realized a few months ago when I was actually in the Dominican, and I want to end on this with the Haiti Dominican Republic piece because I feel like it's also an important thing. It's like two neighbors, right? It's like two twins that are tied at the hip that don't like each other, but there's so much in common. And I've actually started to write a small piece about this, is the work that HAC and Souls for Souls is doing in the Dominican Republic. In my crazy opinion, I believe it's nation building. And if you could even imagine a pair of shoes, right, how that goes into nation building, you would think I'm crazy. But I see that, right? I see Dominicans coming into a store called Papilim, right? And that's already like, what the hell is a Papilim? And then you explain it that's like Haitian for, don't step on my, on my shoes. And then they see the store and they see what we're doing. And a lot of it comes together, right? And then you realize how many of them know some Creole words. You realize how many Dominicans want to learn more about this very close neighbor that they've maybe been taught to stay away from, right? And I think when I go to the stores and I see my Haitian staff interacting with a lot of Dominican clients that are coming to, get shoes from us, I literally looked at it and said, wow, are we really, in some very small way, right, bridging some kind of gap between these two nations, right? Haiti and the DR will always share the same island. They're not going anywhere, right? Are we in some very small way opening up that dialogue, right? Opening up that conversation, right? In a, by someone trying on a pair of shoes, by someone asking, hey, how much is this, right? And, I've seen, Dominicans say, well, how do you say that in Creole, right? And that exchange to me is needed. And I think besides what politically is going on in the DR and in Haiti and what that looks like politically, I think day to day, I do see a lot of. There's so much more that ties Haitians and Dominicans together than what separates them, right? So when I see that, and I see that at our stores in a very small way, I'm like, maybe slowly and surely we're like chipping away at this.
That might be the most Haitian thing I've heard you say. Like, no, really, because my experience is what you're dealing with is as hard a place as I can imagine to work as a Haitian in the DR.
Correct.
And yet, in spite of all that, in spite of the hard thing, people are getting deported and they don't have services. And here you are finding a way that maybe these shoes are helping build it.
I see it, brother.
That's the resilience that you talked about
it.
earlier.
I see it. I see it.
Love that.
Yeah, I see it. I mean, I do think it's a real thing. 'Cause I think that more of that needs to happen, right? More of that cultural exchange need to happen, right? When I invite my Dominican neighbor for bouillon, and he's like, "Oh, this is sancocho." I'm like, "Boom, there you go." It's the small things that I think if more time was spent on them, I think would make things, I think, a little bit better.
All right.
And yeah.
All right, so I'm going to ask the final question, Sam, that we ask everybody. So you've got young kids now. You've got a teenage daughter?
Yeah.
Shocking, too.
Shocking.
And little ones. So lots of times the question gets asked, what do you want to look back and remember? Mm-hmm. What do you want to look forward and remember? When you're 20 years older than you are right now, so 55, when you're in your mid-50s, late 50s, what do you want to remember about this moment that you want to take with you and just remember, like, this is good, or this is something that I feel connected to, that 20 years from now you want to be able to recall?
Yeah, I think for me, it's I want to be able to recall continuing the Haiti fight, believing in Haiti when it was so easy to give up, right? Continuing to navigate this Haiti experience that I'm hoping at some point when Haiti will, 20 years from now, I'm hoping that Haiti is on the up and up. And I would like to look at this day and maybe even see some of the kids that are at the school, that are in university. I would love to be able to say, hey, because of the fight that we're leading today, in a big way, it's contributed to the new Haiti that we all want to see. That would be what I would want when I'm, rocking in my old chair. That's how I would want to remember. That's what I would want to remember. That, in my 20s and my 30s, I was a part of helping Haiti in a very real way. I was about believing in Haiti and Haitians in a very real and tangible way. And I think we're doing that. I think we're doing that, buddy.
Perfect. You stuck the landing perfectly, Sam. So thanks for coming in this morning. Thanks for being here and for everything that you're doing in Haiti and the DR and being a partner with us. Yeah. Thanks very much.
And buddy, I will say that. I mean, we were kind of we didn't talk about really Souls for Souls and just the work, right? And I think, and I have to circle back to this because I think while HAC, we have other partners given, but I think my partnership with Souls for Souls and HAC has been one of the most remarkable partnerships. I mean, I remember when I gave you that call, I said, hey, buddy, I think there's something here in the Dominican Republic. Can you come down and see? And it was like absolutely. Like, let's get something on the calendar and let's go see. And I think what you saw, right, words couldn't put it into perspective. You just being there in real time and seeing what was going on, I think is powerful. And I think the fact that we are, we used to send product into Port-au-Prince. Now, because of the gangs, we cannot. Now we're circumventing product to either Cap Haitian or to the southern city of Miaguan, right? And I always go back to say this when I see how important the work that we are, that the work that we're doing, how important it is for the people in Haiti, where these women are, again, getting on boats, right? They're getting on boats to get through gang territory just to come pick up shoes from us and go back to where they have to go. They're literally, it's that important, right? Because they understand that this is a way for them to continue to just advance, right? Because people, as crazy as Haiti is, people still have to live. They still have to eat. They still have to go to school. Things still need to continue. So the fact that we've been able to figure out creative ways to still make this happen in Haiti, I mean, and I always say this, I say 80% of the product that we get is still going into Haiti. Yeah. And I think I love saying that because I'm like, with Haiti being the way it is, to still know that you have 300 plus, families counting on product, getting to them to really continue to live is an incredible story. So 20 years from now, we're going to talk about this as well. And you're going to be here.
I'm going to be here.
You're going to be
Perfect.
here.
All right, Sam, thanks so much.
Thanks,
this was a
buddy.
great conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Repurpose Podcast with Buddy Teaster. You can learn more about what we do at s4s.org. And if you like this content, please share, rate, and review our episodes wherever you get your favorite podcasts.